everybody. So I have Adriana here today, and we're going to talk about her experience using PBX Heavy Metal Detox with her two very young children and herself. You can find her on Instagram. She is at Barefoot Earth Lover, and she's here to help and help any mom who's afraid of using this detox. Because I think everybody went through that. I know I did myself. Myself and my husband used it first before I gave it to Charlie because I was so, sketched out. I think that the medical system scares us into doing anything detox, anything holistic, anything natural. And that's where I was at until I had the experience that I had, and I was like, oh, I see you. I see what's going on. Especially with those things at the peds office, at those well visits. So that was a big eye opener. And I think you're going to talk about those things as well. So without further ado, Adriana, will you tell us what what was going on with your child that you wanted to detox him?
Yeah, so my son, so I have three kids. My oldest, she's going to be 6, my middle, she's 4, and then my son, he's 18 months. And so with my son, we experienced things pretty much from the very get-go. And then I honestly have to say it progressively got worse, which was traumatic for me because I felt like I'm very intuitive and very connective, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I just was like crying like all the time. And I really mentally was like, I don't know if I can have more children if this is how my son's going to be. Like, I did not know what was going on. We did the chiropractor because he was a shoulder dystocia birth due to too much medical intervention that caused that. And he had really bad acid reflux because they stuck a tube down his mouth and into his stomach, or in through his nose. Yeah. It went through his nose into his stomach, which again, when he would acid reflux, it was always out the nose, out the mouth, and he was like choking. So I always had to hold him up in a very specific position to prevent that from happening. And it was very traumatic because it was like, I don't know if I can lay him down because I would wake up with puke all over myself, and it was just really bad. And he was always screaming in pain, gassy. He had like really bad, stool, like it was just over amounts poop, which I personally never experienced that. And when we approached 6 months, so going to my doctor, I told her, we went through a big disagreement about getting the child to have this. And she was very disrespectful towards my, why. And she basically told me that I'm dramatic, that it's not passed down, and that your son will not have that experience. And I said, okay, I'm not doing it because the last time I did this, the doctor yelled at me in emergency, blaming me for using natural remedies. And that's why my daughter was having these issues, even though it was within 4 hours of when she got her 6-month thing. And she was like, that doctor was having a bad day. And I was like, I don't care. She made me leave crying. And now you're going to make me leave crying because you're not helping me and you're not making me feel heard. And you should respect that, even though, whatever. And when I kept bringing up the stuff that was going on with his constipation issues, because he didn't poop for over 2 weeks. And when I tell you I had to push it out, I literally had to go push in and push it out, and he was screaming and I cried, and my partner's like, I don't know how you do this because it's really traumatic. And it's still traumatic for me to like revisualize that because I literally had to push on his stomach, push it out in order for it at least to get out. And he bled really bad. And that was
How
just like,
long, how long was he not pooping for? Like what? So what happened? So he just like was not pooping, and you were like, this is a problem. My son needs to poop. And so you went and you asked for help, and then they suggested these really harmful laxatives for
yeah.
kids, which you're like, I'm not going to do that. And so you were like, this is what I have to do. My son needs to poop. So you took that upon yourself to do that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because when I brought him, they're like, well, he looks normal. And I said, he may look normal, but I'm telling you, this is not normal. This is my third child. I'm experienced. I don't know what to say. This is something I've never experienced with my kids. You go a couple days and that's normal. And then they'll go. But him, it was 2 weeks. We're almost on 3 weeks. And I said, this is enough. And then he pooped for a couple days and then stopped pooping again for 2 weeks. And then it would be a couple days. 2 to 3 weeks. Oh, that's normal. Some kids hold their poop. No, it's not normal. He was a massive pooper. And then all of a sudden at 6 months, he's just not going anymore. And it hurts so bad that he literally doesn't want to poop anymore. That is not normal. It causes internal damage. Yeah. And I was so frustrated and I kept asking her and I said, I want to find out the root cause. And as soon as I said root cause, she tuned me out. And I said, okay, you're not anymore. And this is it. Like, I have to take it in my own hands. I felt so like, and right now it's like the internal mama rage because I was so angry that they are so uneducated.
Unhelpful.
They're not. They just want to say, here's a Band-Aid for your gushing wound. And hopefully it stops bleeding before, it gets worse. And that's exactly what they're doing. The Restoralax that they gave, it was like, oh, put him on for this long. And I said, this is not good for his stomach. Can't put a child on this long term. And I'm not the only one who went through this stuff because I've read so many people saying that they went through, their child was like 6 or 7 before they started dealing with the issue because the doctor was like not helping them. And it's so traumatic for parents to experience this level of issues and the doctors not being educated, not wanting to help and saying, here's a Band-Aid and, good luck. It's not helping. And so I did take it into my own hands and I am incredibly grateful I listened to myself because I really don't know where my mental state would have been at this point. And, I kept an eye on the product of PBX and I was like, I'm curious about this. And I found you, through TikTok and I was like, you know what? I align with her. She's got such a great energy. Like, you're just so vibrant and you're so compassionate. I'm like, I'm going to keep a watch on this. And I read all the comments and I was like, okay, I think I should do this because I'm like, what could go wrong at this point?
What do you have to lose? That's, yeah.
So, I ordered it and I tried it on myself first because I was curious. And within 3 days, I was like, the little white worms coming out and everything. And I was like, man, I feel so good, even though, of course, before you make the bowel movement, it feels really uncomfortable. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? It worked on me. So let's try it on my girls. And then I gave it to my middle, who she had a injury from this at 6 months old. And that was a very traumatic thing because she stopped breathing quite a few times. Oh. And that's scary because I was like, I almost lost her at birth. I'm not losing her again. And that's what went through my mind. And like I had to keep telling people she was sick because I heard how moms talked. I'm going to disown this person if they don't get their child this. And I was like, I don't want to lose all my friends. This is my only space, the mom group, but I'm overhearing if I ever opened up about the truth, they're going to disown me. And I ended up keeping this from my partner too, because I was afraid because everyone was pro this. And at one point I was very skeptical. When I had my first daughter, I asked the questions and the same response I got every single time. I don't know what's in it, but it's good for you. Okay, well, that doesn't sit easy. My first child, I asked those questions and I felt uneasy leaving after doing it. I had such high anxiety and I wish I had listened, but we didn't know. Well, like I didn't know until researching after what happened to my daughter, because that was traumatic. I mean, we think she got a mild version of autism from that because her developmental skills went downhill and she just became a very different child. She was a very bubbly little baby. And it makes me sad because like she was just such a wonderful little infant. And then as soon as that happened, downhill it went. And it took, like, we have a lot of issues with her, developmentally because of that repercussion of the incident. And when I took her, because, I went and got done, and it was on a Friday, and I remember that day, and I even told, the emergency doctor, because I took her right away. She was covered in lumps, like, and then she was screaming so bad, like someone was pouring hot water down her throat. It was that blood curdling. And I kept saying, this is not normal. Her fever was over 103. She was like rolling the eyes in the back of the head. She was not okay. And they said to me, I brought her in, and the doctor's like, oh, when did she get her this? And I said, like, within 4 hours, because I think it was either early Saturday morning or late Friday night. I think it was Saturday morning. And I said, oh, on Friday at this time, and this is when it started happening. She looked dead in my face, silent, like she saw a deer in headlights. And the room felt so heavy. I knew right then and there, after that very first question, what happened to her. And then she took it out on me. She's like, it's your fault. You cloth diaper. You use all these products. It's probably that's causing her, rash. And I said, okay, explain the fever. Oh, teething. No, she's not sick. She was never sick before this. She was fine. She was wonderful. She was giggly, happy. And now we're this. And it took 4 months for her to recover. 4 months I went with no sleep, and I co-slept with her because it saved her life, because it got to the point where she was filling up with mucus. And if I would have laid her in a crib, like, she would have died in her sleep. That's the reality of what would happen to her. And I'm so glad that I connected to myself as a mother, because I was shamed horribly for
shamed. Yeah, shamed. We're gaslit. We're made to feel crazy, like we're dirty, bad, and wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was so intense, and it got worse. I mean, my partner was like, I don't know what to do. She slept naked, and she slept on my chest because I was putting her down. I was checking her for her heartbeat, and that's like traumatic in itself, having to wonder if your child's going to live or not, from this. And I stayed quiet for quite a while. I would say until she was about 10 months. And then I said to my partner, look, this is what happened. And he's like, are you sure? And I said, yes. I talked to numerous people who know doctors, and who, other moms who were silenced, that a friend of mine, her daughter was like purple and blue after, that. And her mom was a nurse, thank goodness, and said, hey, this is exactly why. And it's so hard, because I don't regret any moment for standing up for my children, and even louder now, because our children are being poisoned in more ways than one. And being
every way.
And, I have to say with my daughter too, like there's been a really big difference with her behavior. Like, she's less angry, which is great.
Anger is a huge side effect of heavy metal toxicity, and the liver being overburdened by toxins. So, and this, you're somebody's very connected to energy, and so am I. And there can be people who can be like, oh, this is a little woo-woo, but it's not. It's actually Chinese medicine. Like, it's actually meridians. It's like reality is that anger is connected to your liver. The emotion anger is connected to the liver. So if your liver is overburdened and overrun by a heavy toxic burden, you're going to be angry. And not only that, what it causes, those heavy metals, as they pass the blood-brain barrier, especially if Tylenol was used, no matter what. There is a book, it's called Crooked. I don't know if you know about this book. You need to get it. All right. You'll learn everything that you need to know. It'll be also really hard for you to read, but you'll also understand everything that happened. And what he talks about is the heavy metals attached to the white blood cells. Okay. So, and white blood cells, they go wherever they need to go to help. When your body's calling for help, they'll go there. And especially when your child is going through a traumatic event, okay, that if the immune system, or not the immune system, but if those white blood cells go for any reason to the brain, they're carrying everything to the brain. And so if your brain and your brain is specifically signaling for help, or trauma being held down, something being put into you, everything, all those heavy metals go directly up into the brain. So this happens with the 6 month, the 8 month, the 18 months, because their brains are like, I'm being held down. I can't move. I'm afraid. And it goes right up into the brainstem. So if you read all of those things, or if you read that book, you'll really, really understand what's going on. In the crooked smiles and talking crooked, because it's actually brain lesions from the heavy metals that's causing the issues with the muscles in the face and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about you want to compartmentalize and talk about your son and then talk about your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when I originally started him on something called poop remover, which is basically rhubarb extract. And it did what it needed to do, just kind of get the old gunk out. But he was still like, if I didn't give it to him every single day, he would not poop. And I was like, well, okay, something's going on. And so then I started him on the dropper and then the spray.
Yeah.
And within, I would say it took about three weeks to 4 weeks before it started really working, which I like because it's a slow, removal. When he made his bowel movement, there was 30 plus egg sacs, some hatched, that were roundworm, and they were not small.
No, they're big. I had roundworm too. Day 2 using the drops with her. Roundworms. I was like, I took a fork and was going through it. I had pictures with like big worms in it, and I was like, what the F is going on?
Yeah. I picked it apart, and then there was like, you could see some of them coiled up in the sack and then some sticking out, and I was like, gross. And there were so many.
Yeah.
And after his bowel movement, there was an instant shift within him that like an ease just was released.
His personality, right? You can feel that in their personality. They're like happier, they're lighter. That's the only way I can describe it. They're lighter and their personality pops out even more.
Yeah, you could definitely feel though when you picked him up when he didn't poop, because he felt heavier. You could literally
sure
that. And I would say it took about 4 to 5 bowel movements before no more roundworms were coming out, and it was more just the tiny little egg sacs that were like balls. And that's when, of course, the heavy metals too, and of course it came with the really bad stink, which whatever.
Yeah, and those heavy metals, what people don't understand is they become embedded in the digestive tract, in the colon, in these places, which is feeding, perpetuating the parasite issue, which we pass down to them. Or if you got dogs, okay, I got news for you guys. If you got dogs at home, your kids got worms, you got worms, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a thing. So they eat the heavy metals and then they're growing, which is, taking nutrients. It's just this awful cycle. So and I tell people too, if your kid's not pooping, still use the drops. There's a lot of people who are like, I can't use the drops, they're not pooping. But there's an issue beneath that. And it's usually heavy metals and a heavy toxic load in the digestive system that is keeping them from pooping, right? And that's your experience, using the drops, removing the toxins, and then all of a sudden he becomes regular again.
Yeah, he poops every single day, and it's with ease. Actually, it's nice to say that, because he's not struggling. And I think that's one of my biggest reliefs as a mother, is knowing that he's not in pain, he's not struggling. And I did not know your small intestine was a house for roundworms, because that's where they like to hang out, which caused so many issues from it. It's why his body wasn't digesting properly. It's why he wasn't able to make a proper, bowel movement, because it was stopping. Like, they play such a big part in the body. And I explained this to the girls because we actually did a lesson yesterday in homeschool, and we learned, I have it right here, all about roundworms. And I got, all the information. I say, yeah, that comes out in our poop when we detox. And that's why we do this, and explaining to them how important it is.
That's so amazing that you are doing that.
Yeah. They thought it was fun and gross. They're like, Mom, that's they're like that.
I tell Charlie, don't kiss the doggies. Don't kiss the doggies. You don't want worms in your belly. You know what I mean? Because it's true.
Yeah, and it's so, for me it's such a big relief because like, I honestly don't know where we would have been with him. I don't even want to think about that because it would have been traumatic. Like it already was. And it was honestly a lifesaver for our family. And my partner was shocked. And when I tell you, he doesn't care about his body by any means. He just eats whatever, does whatever. He's like, nah, I'm alive. That's all that matters. And he's like, look at me, I'm skinny and I got abs. And I'm like, that doesn't make you a healthy. Like,
Yeah.
you're not healthy. Like, I don't know how to by putting all this in. And, shifting our diet, talking about, the gene mutation. So MTHFR, that's another big thing too, because I was like, well, we really need to remove everything. So now I make my own gummies for the kids if they want to snack. We make our own ice cream. We do, really healthy brownies, and we've shifted to an anti-inflammatory diet. So minimal gluten, which hard for my daughter, my middle one, because she seems to like it. So if she wants it, I just make it myself because I know what I've got in it. And also supporting them, with their vitamins as well. So I've ordered menthol B12 and folate. So the stuff that you had posted about, I'm ordering for not only just me, but for all three of my kids, because my oldest definitely, I don't attach words to my kids, but she's very ADHD like, and she needs it, I would say, the most, because she's like, she holds a lot of toxins too. So she's been releasing that, and that's been a huge thing. It's been the least noticeable for her, but again, we experienced reactions due to this. She was, not even after she got her very first one, she was sick for 2 weeks. And I was like,
oh, poor baby. This is this is classic for THFR kids, okay? Any of these reactions and injuries are classic for MTHFR. And so you had told me before we jumped on, I said, have you tested them? And you said, no, not yet, but it's in the process actually. And both of your younger children have the blue vein on the bridge of the nose, which is the sugar bug vein. And so we can really know, like without a doubt, that they do have MTHFR. That's a classic sign. I remember seeing that in my daughter, reading about MTHFR and being like, oh no, maybe it's not true. But you know what I mean? Maybe it's not true. And it is. It just is. And then also just to kind of go back, your son, you were induced against your will. You did not want to be induced, okay?
Yeah.
You were induced, and with MTHFR kids, right? And also depending on variant, this can be a little bit, you got to take a deep dive in and you got to research all these things. It's a gene mutation. It's not easy stuff, right? But certain children, certain people with MTHFR cannot have any sort of like anesthesia. They don't do well with certain medications. Some are super resistant. So what happened is it went through his bloodstream. They gave you said a high dose of morphine at that time. He came out with rashes, didn't he, all over him?
They put me on the max dose of the Pictocin. So one, I didn't even want it. Let's be honest. I'm so mad at my midwife for doing that. And I will, when I have my next baby, I'm not going to the midwives because they won't listen. So for me, when I was in labor, so yeah, this is a classic medical thing. And I'm a very big birth advocate on the human body and what mothers can do. And so I originally went in, they put Cervidil in. They're like, I was supposed to go home. Well, she forced me against my will to stay in the hospital for 3 days. So I was stuck in the hospital where I have high anxiety because I'm a very spiritual being and I'm very connected to energy. So that there, I cannot relax. And so my body was refusing to release. Like my cervix was like, I'm not doing this. You can keep praying. I'm not doing it. My body said, no, I'm not being forced to do something my body's always done on its own. And I told my midwife, like, I don't want to do this. And, she's like, well, Wednesday you were supposed to, but we're doing it today. And that was a whole chaotic thing. And plus we were dealing with my fiance fighting for his job because of this. And I had that extra stress fighting life, literally, because I already knew what, that's a whole unpackaged thing. But And then they put me on the max dose of Pictocin, and they were like, the doctor gave me an option. They're like, we'll overdose you, which could tear your uterine line, or you get a C-section. And I turned them and I said, no, you will not. And they're like, well, what do you want me to do? I said, leave my body alone. I don't know how to make that clear. I literally had a mental breakdown. One, I was just sleeping, and all of these people came and woke me up because I had accepted the morphine because I felt intuitively guided, and I trust that it protected me from,
Right.
getting protection, which I wouldn't have had any more kids after that, and I would have sued the medical system. And when they did that, my son's heart rate was going up and down, up and down. And
Yes.
one of the was freaking out, and I was like, he's stressed. I'm stressed beyond belief. I'm not even allowed to leave the room because of your protocols and because I denied all the stuff. So I'm like a problem child in this hospital right now. Like, I'm causing havoc. Like,
Yeah,
and
they
I'm not
don't like you. Yeah, they
no.
don't like you. They're gonna force whatever they want to do from
Oh
that
yeah.
on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that in itself, because my second daughter was a shoulder dystocia birth, my midwife was very, because she carried a lot of fear. She projected way too much fear. And I understand because of what happened in her job placement. But as a midwife, infant death is a part of this. And, it happens, and I totally understand. And I'm grateful to an extent, but they overreached. They overstepped. They did not let me have control. There was, needles all in me. And I just felt like I was like an experiment. And so was my son. It was traumatic for him too, being, him coming out and then being pulled out, which causes physical discomfort, being all the chemicals that were pumped into his body. Then he sat there and screamed for 20 minutes, and no one wanted to put him on his chest because he needed this too because of whatever. But because it created all of these other issues with his digestive system, and it was just a literal shit show. Like, I don't know how else to put it. And it was traumatic for me. Like, I have to say, I cried and I told them, just give me my baby. He wants me. I want him. Give him to me. And they finally did. I was not happy with that birth at all. It was not what I expected because I wanted birth so bad. And because they don't like that the home birth went up over CV.
No,
they
they're
don't
scare everybody because they want that money.
Oh yeah, it's about the money, definitely. But it was a very and I don't really know what's in, the synthetic. That's a big giveaway. Right. You don't really. They can put a fancy label on it and say it's good for you, like everything else, and it's not. So he was pumped from the get go with, toxins, and it breaks my heart because that isn't normal yet. It's being normalized, and mothers are being shamed, silenced for asking questions. It's disheartening, and it makes me angry. It makes me, want to scream. Like, I just feel like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, I know you were bought by the government. I get it, whatever. And you need to find your heart to see that these people we need your help. To some level, you need to know your research. So, and they wonder why we don't trust the medical system anymore. But, yeah, it was just a whole whirlwind of things for him. And he was also energetically having a very difficult time after he was born because I couldn't talk about my birth. If someone said, what happened with your birth, he would scream because that was traumatic. He wanted.
Because he could feel your energy shift when anybody asked about it. And so there's even my daughter, like if somebody's having a bad day, if her grandma's having a bad day, she comes home having a terrible day because they're empaths. They absorb all that energy. They absorb that frequency. Yeah. Goodness, I'm so sorry, but I'm so happy that we've met and that we can share our stories together, our stories of coming together, normalizing, detoxing our children, normalizing listening to your intuition. Do you know what I mean? And not anybody who just has a few letters next to their name.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then let's talk about your daughter. How did your daughter do with using the detox?
She did really well. It took a little bit too. I mean, it's a slow detox, which again is really a good thing for kids. And she passed, worms like no tomorrow. She was passing the toxins, and it was like the fogginess was lifting from her.
Mm-hmm.
Noticed that she's becoming more like what she used to be before her, thing. She's very bubbly. She's less anger, and
Yep.
we're working on, a parenting level too of how to understand her and her needs because, it was a long time before I detoxed her. Like, let's be honest. I mean, I used peppermint oil, but, it didn't do the internal work. And when
How
she
long?
would get, sorry,
Sorry. Continue on.
she had a lot of internal, like when she would get sick, she would be sick for prolonged periods of
Yep.
time. And it was little, cold. Same with my son. He was always sick, and so was
Yep.
she.
Yep. The heavy
Uh,
metals and that toxic load, it completely blocks your kids from healing fast. It holds the immune system back big time.
Big time.
Mm. So how long have you been detoxing her for?
So I've done it for, I would say about 3 months. We have been doing it. And now I just do the spray because, we just lessen the dosage now that we got the main, but they still get the spray, 3 times a day,
But
you know, 2 sprays, and then I do it usually 3 times a week. So
are you using the fulvic as well?
I ordered it, so I'm adding that into it.
That's gonna
Which,
be pivotal. Pivotal for the gut biome, pivotal to heal leaky gut, which those things actually cause. All right. So the toxins are going all throughout the bloodstream, the heavy metals, they're being passed to every other organ. So that's another thing with children who did have those kind of reactions. And we've waited a little while. It takes a little while longer. So just continue doing that. And we're continuing to pull the heavy metals from all of the organs that it's traveled to. So, like I said, it takes a little while, but just keep going on. And you'll continue to see progress. And then the fulvic, like I said, fulvic will balance the microbiome. It will bind extra toxins in the digestive system. It pulls apart biofilms. So where kids have like a lot of heavy metals and toxins, they have a lot of pathogens. They have a lot of parasites, candida. All these things are able to proliferate because they use the heavy metals for their biofilm. So when we're using the fulvic, when we're using the drops, when we're using the spray, it's pulling apart the biofilm so your body can find it, so your immune system can find it, because the biofilm allows those organisms to hide from your immune system. So we're ripping it apart. They're finally able to find it. Now the cells work properly because you took the heavy metals from them. That's so amazing. And then the gut to brain connection, when Charlie started using the fulvic, I was like, "Who are you? You are like so cute and amazing. Something happened.
Yeah.
Something happened with her personality." So that's yet to come. I'm really excited to hear your story with that.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think it's just such an exciting thing to share with people because you got to detox. I mean, we're living in a world right now where the government is poisoning our food. I mean, if you look at your box goods, you're putting toxins in every single day. You like, whatever crap, you're putting it in that's toxin load. For me personally, with this detox, I had issues with my gallbladder on an energetic level and a physical level because I used to be a drinker, a big drinker.
mm,
I use, and I'm also going to be doing a lung detox on myself and my partner because again, he's a big, smoker, and I
yep,
used to do it and get that
yep,
mucus out.
yep.
And I had a lot of issues with my liver and my stomach. And since doing the detox, I have no issues. And
Nope.
because of the diet, I completely removed, and I'm just sticking to this diet for life because I do not trust what's in our food. The anti-inflammatory diet. It's been an ease because I can feel when I feel gunked up. You just feel it. You're like, oh, I feel plugged inside. And I just feel like everything's free flowing, which is great. I love it because it's a physical release for myself. And I also was passing small, tiny kidney stones when I first started doing it.
Yes, people will pass kidney stones, they'll
Yeah,
pass the gallstones. I've seen so many pictures of babies' diapers with green stones in them, and they're like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "They're passing gallstones. Like this is
yeah.
yeah, yep." It's
And
amazing because your body will heal itself when you remove the toxic load, and that's the biggest kept secret of big pharma and the medical industry. The biggest kept secret, and I'll talk about that every day, all day.
our bodies, people always just think our body's a body. And because I work so much too of the balance of the physical and the energetic, our bodies are not just a body. Our bodies are so powerful and healing. Like people can't understand that. Like it is on so many vastly different levels when it comes to that. And so by removing the toxin load to support the healing, you're gonna I haven't gotten sick since starting it. Like, you know what? It is like great because I used to get sick all the time. I mean, I used to go to playgroup, which whatever, that was a germ fest because of the parents
Yeah,
who had and whatever's transmuting
yeah.
from release. And it's such a vital thing for people, with the chemtrails and everything that's happening. And just it's a big release. And water, man, like let's talk about water. Like I alkaline my water, with my family, so it's also lowering the acidicness in the stomach. Like there's so many moving parts, and one of the biggest too for me is it regulated my cycle. Like
Um,
shocked. I was shocked. I used to be a heavy
Same
release,
pain,
7 days.
same pain. Now, no pain. I can't even
Yeah,
tell you when it's coming unless I look at the date. I've never been regulated in my life. Now I'm
yeah,
synced up to the full moon, which I
yeah,
feel like I've made it because I mean, I'm a spiritual woman who's like, oh, I'm synced up with the full moon and releasing. And I'm just like, well, and when's this going to happen for me? But yeah, so I'm synced up, no pain. When I tell you I have no pain, I mean, guys, I don't have any pain. That's from toxins in your uterus.
yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's so interesting because our uterus is an emotional juncture on a spiritual level, and then at the physical level, it is a juncture. And I started regulating because now I'm just one day semi heavy, and then the rest it's like barely. And
I
I'm
know.
like, because I used to leak through my pants all the time. I was scared to move the wrong way, or I'll do just everywhere, and it's not uncomfortable. And when my first cycle started, when I started this, I could tell it was releasing all the gunk out of it.
Me too.
And that's the coolest thing. People may be grossed out by blood or whatever. I'm not. I'm a birth nerd, so I look at that stuff all the time. And seeing that, I was like, how interesting is that? Just how interesting is it when we start taking care of ourselves and our bodies let us know? It is such a beautiful thing. And I'm just like, I've never felt better physically and emotionally as well, because again, the hormonal things that come with being a mom and the chemicals and the toxins and all of that balances itself out. And I'm just like, I'm just enjoying life, man.
I'm
Like
just
I just
living my life. My brain works properly now. You know what I mean? It never, I had such bad brain fog. I started
mm-hmm.
dreaming again from using this. I started dreaming again because it calcifies the third eye. All the
Yeah.
toxins, the fluoride, it removes fluoride. So that's amazing in itself. I was like, oh my God, I remember the exact place and time I was. I was opening a cabinet in my kitchen and I realized that I was like, I feel like myself again from using this detox. And I don't know when it was that I lost myself, when it was that I stopped feeling like this and I could cry. But it gave me myself back, and nobody understands. Not a lot of people are under waking up to this, that we are so toxic. We are organic beings that are full of heavy metals and toxins from the plastic, from the water, from eating the food, from the cooking utensils, from the pop cans, from breathing in the air, and that, whatever the weather modification program.
Mm.
Just from all of it, from and then my mother had the metal fillings, the mercury
Mhm.
metal fillings that passes down 4 generations. I mean, come on, like it's just endless. So, well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us and so much. This was an amazing talk.
It was fun to share and talk about, and I really just want to inspire people because you know what, when I talk to quite a people about this, they're always nervous to start this, and I always like to say, if you're feeling nervous about it, this is where you need to take a leap of faith. This, when it's your time, because you're nervous for a reason. You're nervous because you know what the results are internally. You know what's going to come, and it's nothing bad. It's that you're going to really have your eyes wide open. You're going to really start seeing that shift. And, I've told many people, when it comes to that's when you need to take that jump. If you're, a financial thing, everyone feels that financial tugness. You will have more than enough and it will align just the way it's. And it's going to work in a really wonderful way for you. And I always say, just take that leap of faith, take that jump, because there is no harm. What's it going to do if you take that leap of faith? And that's what people are most scared of,
Yeah.
And to anyone who's listening, if you're on the fence about it, I hope that my story inspires you to take that jump, because as a mother who did not know about what I know now, I will never go back and I will never change my ways anymore,
Mm.
because how vital it is. And I am teaching my children, which will go on for generations after them. They will teach their children, it will go on and on and on. And we will create healthy people. And that's what I want to see, because we are not, and it makes me emotional, we are not meant to be sick. We're not supposed to have injuries. We're not supposed to have, different types of C's. There was, breast cancer ran in my family. And I know I will never see the face of that, because the emotional, the physical burden that we carry in our bodies, when it has nowhere else to go, it's going to create things, and it's going to manifest into bigger things into your body. And a lot of people don't realize it. And it is vital at this point to start healing. Like the best time to heal is now, right now, because we are living in such a auspicious time in the world that is changing right in front of us. And it's time to take that leap and start leaving the old behind, because once you do that, you never go back. It's like,
Go back.
I laughed. See ya, thanks doctors. Thanks for teaching me a lesson. And you know what? I always say this. I am so grateful for every experience I ever had that was good or negative, because it taught me a lesson. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't be the best version of me today, healthy, thriving. My kids are thriving, and that's what's the most, important thing. And watching my kids just be the best version of them, that I carried that guilt, I carried that burden, wondering what I did wrong. And now what I know, and now I can pass all this on to everybody else, because I just want moms and people in general to heal. I just want to see everyone happy and healthy. That's just my goal. That's my man. Like, that's just what I hold space. And it always makes me so sad to see so many people sick, because the systems are failing them and they're not being honest.
Yep. And I mean, I have the exact same thing, and I'm also on the other side grateful for an emergency room for blunt force trauma and for things like that. But that's what I keep it for. That's what I'm grateful for. That if I fall and I break my leg, thank you. I'm happy. You know what I mean? Everybody's taking. That's where I go. I don't even. I don't want to say what I was going to say, but grateful for the doctors in that aspect. But when it comes to my actual health, no,
Yeah.
no, I got it. Especially my kids. Yeah. So I prefer to be on the whole natural side of those things.
Yeah. And a lot of people are waking up to that, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy to see that. I'm really happy that people are realizing, like, they're poisoning us. Like, how else do you say that? Like fluoride and all of that. It's, some people are still oblivious to it, and it's like, well, I guess something might have to come your way for you to see.
You
was, you know, some,
don't know. That's the thing with my, with my experience. You don't know how terrible you feel until you detox and you feel so good from detoxing, you know?
mm,
So people,
yeah.
yeah. But again, thank you so much for coming on here. And guys, at Barefoot Earth Lover. That's her Instagram if you want to connect with her. I know she'd love to talk to you if you messaged her about anything prior, regarding birth or her children's experience or her experience or anything. I can feel the passion that you have. You're just like me. You just want to help everybody and share all the
Yeah.
knowledge you have. So, guys, feel free to to message her. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this and bringing awareness to other moms.
Thank you so much for having me. It's
Okay.
so
You have a wonderful rest of your day and thank you so much. Okay, bye.